Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage leader of the Brexit Party, Nigel Farage.
Can we go back? This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. Can we go back? This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. Go back. This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. So we put our hands up. So we put our hands up. Let's go. And all my people say,
Wow! Hello, Birmingham! Are we having a good time? Is this party on its way? Well, that was unbelievable. Unbelievable. I've just been reflecting that we launched the Brexit Party just 49 days ago down the road in Coventry, and haven't we achieved a quite extraordinary thing in less than 50 days? Thank you to all of you for your support. You see, I realized towards the end of 2018 that something would have to be done. It was clear to me that the Reds and the Blues had broken their promises. It was clear that the Yellows were fighting for the other side, that Purple had gone rotten. So I thought to myself, it's time for turquoise. It's time for the Brexit Party. And it's been unbelievable. As Richard said, in the space of 6 weeks, we didn't just top the polls in a national election, we got 50% more votes than our nearest rivals. We've now got 115,000 registered supporters, and almost unbelievably, we've managed on 4 occasions to top the polls for how do you intend to vote in the next general election. But I believe that we have an achievement that is far greater than statistics, far greater than numbers. I believe our real achievement is that in a country increasingly sick to death of politics, of politicians, of feeling what is the point of the whole thing, no, the real achievement of the Brexit Party is we have given people hope. That's our major achievement. And we recognise that politics is broken. We recognise that the two-party system serves nothing but itself. We've had enough of people whose key motivation in politics is their career, and it's about time we had some people with principle, some people prepared to put the country before their career. And we have a big vision for the future of our country. We are upbeat, we are optimistic, we believe in Britain, we believe in the British people, and we believe that Brexit is the greatest opportunity any of us will ever see in our lifetimes. Now, since that remarkable day on the 23rd of May, we've been pretty busy. Indeed, we contested our first ever parliamentary by-election in Peterborough with the excellent local candidate Mike Green standing for us and being a great credit to us, I think, in so many ways. Now, there are two things that we've learned from the Peterborough by-election. The first is that the Labour Party continue with some highly dubious electoral practices. Indeed, the very fact that a convicted electoral fraudster was there as a counting agent on the night is enough in itself to tell you that something is rotten at the heart of British politics, and in particular in the Labour Party. So let us hope that our petition is taken seriously by the Electoral Court for a full, open investigation. But there's something else we learned in Peterborough, and it's this. There are many seats in the country, especially many Labour-held seats in the country, where we are now the challenger, where only we can beat the Labour Party. And actually, by going out and voting Conservative, what many people did was to let Labour win. So there's a big new message in British politics. In a growing number of seats in Britain, if you vote Tory, you will get Corbyn, and you should stand aside for the Brexit Party, who can beat them in those constituencies. And how extraordinary that in the 2017 general election, you remember the one when both the Labour and Conservative parties told us they would respect the result of the referendum. Remember that? And in that year, those two parties got 95% of the vote in Peterborough. A few weeks ago, they got 52% of the vote in Peterborough. The advent of the Brexit Party has shattered the status quo in politics, and not before time, in my opinion. Now we go on from here to the Brecon and Radnor by-election, and albeit the Liberal Democrats have a big advantage there, but we go on to Brecon and Radnor and we'll fight it, and we'll fight it hard. But the really, to me, exciting thing is how quickly we've moved as a party. Huge credit to all of those involved, because today, on the stage with me, we have the first, just over 100 of our prospective parliamentary candidates, people who will take the Brexit Party message out to the next general election. Give them a round of applause. Stand up, everybody. Come on. Be happy. Well done. Well done, all of you. Brilliant. Brave men and women putting themselves forward. Well done. But that, of course, this fine group of people are but a start. By the end of next week, we will have 650 approved prospective parliamentary candidates. There is a big message that Westminster needs to hear. We are not a protest movement. Oh, and by the way, Mr. Johnson, you can try if you want to, but I will not be put back in my box by you or anybody else. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, it's amazing to see 5,500 of you here today in this room. This has got energy, it's real, and it's our first ever genuine meeting of the Brexit Party, of those that are signed up, registered supporters. I think the rest of the world will be looking at this, wondering about this, because this is the new politics. But I have to tell you, aside from the 650 candidates, there are many things that I want you to do. You see, I'm asking for your help, because beyond the general election, maybe even before the general election, we will have to find thousands of people to stand up and fight local elections for us right across the country. Well, before you clap, can I ask, are there any volunteers here in the hall? Are you prepared to stand up and be counted? That is what we need. And even if you don't want to be a candidate, there are plenty of things you can do. We are launching today our new recommended read. The Brexiteer is launched today. And there are a couple of million copies at the back of the hall, so please fill your boot up. Let's get these distributed and let's get on to the second print. And next Saturday, the 6th of July, we'll be launching our first National Action Day. The plan is to have over 500 street stalls out there in our cities, in our market towns. So please, please help. It's fantastic that 115,000 of you have signed up already, but we need many, many more to join up and support us in the Brexit Party. We need to build an unstoppable mass movement in this country. If we don't, Westminster will betray us yet again. So please help us to go out and recruit. There has been a lot of speculation about where our money has come from. I think this is prompted, as much as anything else, by jealousy. They find it difficult to believe that that number of people have been signing up online predominantly with their £25. And indeed, I hope Gordon Brown, who's a very, for those that don't know him, extraordinarily popular former Prime Minister, no? Oh, I've got that wrong. Gordon Brown has made the most extraordinary series of false assertions, even saying that it needs to be investigated whether the Brexit Party took their money from Russia. And I hope, as I say, I hope that he's watching this right now. And I'd like a little bit of audience participation, please. Would you please raise your hands if you've given us £25 or more? Thank you. Gordon Brown, that is where our money comes from. Would you like to give Gordon Brown a big cheer? 1, 2, 3, Brexit! Boo! Thank you. Right, well, that does that. And enough of those false nonsenses that we keep hearing. Look, I believe without us, there will be no proper Brexit, because we have a Remain Parliament, because we have a Remain broadcast media. Andrew Marr, anybody? But in politics itself, who should we trust? Should we trust Boris Johnson or Jeremy Hunt, perhaps? Well, they're asking us to trust them, but remember that before them, we had Prime Minister May, who promised us 108 times that we would leave on March the 29th, and we didn't. And in Jeremy Hunt, well, we have a Remainer. And I think having previously had a Remainer, that ought to rule him out. But what of Boris Johnson? Now remember that when Mrs. May came back from Brussels with her deal, that's what they call it, isn't it? They call it Mrs. May's deal. But it's not a deal. It's Monsieur Barnier's new European treaty. It is the worst deal in history. It must never pass in this country. Mind you, there is one bit of really good news today. One thing that's really cheered me up today is the news that leading civil servant Ollie Robbins has resigned. But what of Boris? What of trusting Boris? Well, he 2 or 3 times in his column in the Telegraph wrote about that treaty, that it would be a disaster for British democracy, wrote about that treaty, that it would lead to us being a vassal state, wrote about that treaty, that we would become a slave state, and twice he voted against it. And on the 3rd time of asking, he voted for it. Boris, why should we trust you when you tell us we are leaving on the 31st of October, come hell or high water? And then the next day, you confuse us all by saying it's a 1,000,001 chance against us leaving with no deal. What? I mean, what is he on? Is he spending too much time with Michael Gove? I don't know. Rule number one in British politics is never trust the Tories. They stand at election after election. They make manifesto commitments that they never have any intention of honouring. I don't trust them. I don't believe them. But, in the highly unlikely event that Boris finds some courage, in the highly unlikely event that he says, no, I'm going to stand up and challenge Parliament to vote me down, even if it means I lose a motion of confidence, even if it means I have to call a general election. In those highly unusual events, I would, of course, then be prepared to meet him in the demilitarized zone. But perhaps our thoughts should be more on the Labour Party at this moment in time. Whatever one thinks of Jeremy Corbyn, he has been, I know. But he is actually by instinct Eurosceptic, and he has done his best to hold the line. However, he is losing that battle. The Remainers are now completely in control of the Labour Party. Even the Deputy Leader, Tom Watson, said a couple of weeks ago, our members are Remain, our values are Remain. And of course, in that, he is backed by the North London aristocracy of the Labour Party. Sir Keir Starmer, Emily Thornberry, and of course also from north of the river in London, the wonderful, magnificent, dynamic Diane Abbott. Labour Party now wants a second referendum, and they will campaign for Remain. They've also become obsessed with identity politics and with the globalist agenda, and that puts them absolutely miles apart from millions of their traditional supporters. The Labour Party now is about Islington, not Isloin. It's about Hampstead, not Huddersfield. It's about the comfortable elites and no longer standing up for the working classes in this country. And maybe that's why in the European elections, our top score in all of the regions in the country was in the normally Labour heartland of the north east of England, where the Brexit Party, in just 6 weeks, scored an amazing 39% of the vote. How about that? There are many, many Labour seats in which we will now be the challengers, and let's put them on notice today. We are getting ready because we stand up for the patriotic values of millions of people in this country, and we stand up for those 5 million Labour voters who voted Brexit, who've now been betrayed by their own party, as indeed the country has been by the Conservative Party. We are getting ready. We are serious. We are not going away. We mean business, and we will change politics for good. And Brexit is the most amazing opportunity, an opportunity for us in this country to make a fresh start. Time for us to start to choose some different priorities. It is true that as London grows richer, as London grows bigger, as London grows more powerful, so much of the rest of this country increasingly feels left behind. And the Brexit Party today, and you've heard from our chairman, Richard Tice, who is a newbie at politics. He's made a pretty good start, hasn't he, really? I think so. I think he's doing all right. You've already heard from Richard Tice where we're going to save the money. The money from HS2. Big cuts to the foreign aid budget. And of course, that 39 billion that Ollie Robbins was happy to give in return for absolutely nothing. No, we've got a big plan here. We want to invest in the rest, to invest in the regions, to invest in the people in this country. They have been horribly neglected, and they are seriously disadvantaged in so many ways. Our Brexit booster plan is the single most ambitious political programme to modernise this country that has ever been seen in the history of our nation, and we are very proud to put it before you today. In many parts of the country, the high streets are literally dying. In every part of the country, government is completely disconnected from the 5.5 million men and women who run their own businesses or who act as sole traders. We understand those people. Many of us in the past or even today have run our own businesses. We know government doesn't understand them, we do, and I genuinely think the idea that we remove business rates for all new businesses setting up in our high streets outside of London is something that will encourage many more people to stand up, set up business of their own, and I hope in doing so regenerate our depressed high streets in our towns, our cities, and our coastal communities. And I'm very struck just how backward much of this country is when it comes to high-speed internet, Wi-Fi access, and even, unbelievably, mobile phone connectivity. I spent the new year in Namibia, where the telephone signal and high-speed internet was better than it is in much of this country. That is ludicrous, and we absolutely must make sure that our transport systems have got internet connectivity. And we should aim to make sure that every house in the country within the next 10 to 15 years is linked in to the 21st century. If not, they'll be at a disadvantage. Having these things today is as essential as having water and electricity. Let's use the money we're saving. Let's use it as a Brexit booster. Let's modernise our country. And just because we don't want HS2 does not mean that we don't want major infrastructure spending on transport. We do. Try and travel from east to west or west to east across the north of England. It is just ridiculous. It is virtually impossible. And we will back and support transport schemes, sensible transport schemes that actually mean this country can actually get to work. And why don't we? Why don't we? Outside of the European Union, why don't we give those contracts to British companies? And why don't we link that thought with our own younger generation? Yeah, I know more of them voted Remain than voted Brexit, but given the prevailing bias in our schools and universities, perhaps that is not surprising. But our young people have actually been horribly misled. They've been told over the course of the last 20 years that the be-all and end-all is to get to university, when the truth of it is, for some, it's the right option. But for many, bizarrely, we seem to have turned our young people away from learning trades and skills, things that are vital. I feel that our major importers, our major employers are happy to get as much cheaper foreign labour as they possibly can, and to leave hundreds of thousands a year of our young people coming out of university with degrees that don't advantage them in the workplace and debt piled around their necks. There's something wrong in this. One thing that major infrastructure reform and building can do is give us the opportunity to put huge numbers of young people on genuine, not false, to make up numbers, but genuine apprenticeships so they can learn those trades and skills to last them for their life. And at a time when interest rates are not much above zero, to put all of these young people through the university system, where virtually every university now charges the maximum £9,200 a year, and where they start to accrue interest at around 6% from the very first day they enter university and through their lives, such that if at the age of 30 they've paid off the full student loan, they've had to pay back double what they've borrowed in the first place. No wonder so many people in their middle, late 20s who would like to buy houses, perhaps start families, feel financially they can't do it because on top of their tax and national insurance, they are paying interest rates at a level which in the old days we would have called usury. It is outrageous, it is unfair, and it has to end. So we will use this 200 billion to wipe away the interest on those debts, I suspect, to the great relief of millions of young people in this country. I was told during the European election campaign that we were a one-policy party, as if that was something to be ashamed of. But of course, that one policy was that we believed in democracy and we believed the referendum should be carried out. Everything you've heard today, the results of our initial polling of our members, all of the things I've put to you today will be tested with you. You will get the chance to vote on this. This is new, direct democracy. We are a brand new movement in political politics. We're doing things differently. We're doing it differently. And we're doing it differently because the old politics is broken, isn't it? The old politics cannot be fixed. And yes, we need fundamental reform of our political systems. As September comes, we'll talk to you as well with thoughts about law and order and many other things. But I hope you think and believe that by coming here to the NEC in Birmingham today, what you have seen in a very short space of time is this party that within 6 weeks secured that extraordinary victory, now rapidly maturing, changing, organising, getting ready to be the most radical force British politics has seen for over a century. And I ask you to stand with us, to help us, to support us. And I thank you for being here today. Thank you.
Brilliant. Well done, brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Nigel. I told you he was on form.